Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining our Building Digital Talent in Greater Manchester webinar. We're delighted that you could join us this afternoon. I'm Claire Riding, Director of External Affairs at University Academy 92. I'm also joined by a group of wonderful speakers who are going to take you through the webinar today. So why are we here? We want to talk about the UA92 Digital Upskill programme, which is being run in partnership with Microsoft and the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. Throughout the event, there will be a chance for you to ask questions as we go. We'll be keeping an eye on the chat box. If you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A box, which you can see at the bottom of your screen. We also have a chance for questions at the end of the webinar as well. So it's now my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Lou Cordwell, OBE, founder and CEO of Magnetic North and co-chair of the Greater Manchester Local Enterprise Partnership.
Great, thanks, Claire. So I guess it'll be no surprise to anyone that I'll probably talk again about one of my favourite topics, which is digital skills today, in amongst the kind of craziness that we've seen politically in the last few days. I think one of the things obviously that we're aware of as businesses that we knew was coming anyway, and that's why programmes and initiatives like this have been in development for a while. But what COVID's shown us is the massive acceleration in the importance of digital skills and digital as a really important part of how business grows and survives in the coming years. So I think it's an interesting moment in that we've got great peril, and huge problems and without doubt economic recession coming, but at the same time a really interesting moment for business in terms of the opportunity to get its digital transformation and its digital ambition right. So I think anybody who's been engaged in any of the events that as Greater Manchester we've been running, and we held an event last week to talk about our blueprint and our updates on how we're progressing on our own plans. There's a clear ambition obviously within Greater Manchester, and you'll hear our Mayor Andy Burnham talk about our ambition to be a top 5 global player. And for us, I guess that's not just an economic ambition, it's a social ambition. But crucially, what that ambition recognises is that not only is digital and creative a really important vertical in our economy moving forward, but actually all business is going to be digital in some way. And so we talk about digital as a really important horizontal driver across every sector, from health to delivery of public service to placemaking. So it's pretty impossible now to imagine a business that isn't going to need digital somewhere at the heart of how it works and thinks and delivers its products and services. As we know, we've seen that accelerate in the last few months. And actually, what we're learning is that for the future resilience of a lot of business, they're going to need to be more digital in how they operate. I think crucially, whilst we've got big plans for a kind of economic recovery that has digital at the heart, what we're also keen to do as a city region is make sure that that's inclusive. So I think we talk about growth that takes everybody with us, and we still have massive skill gaps across the city region, quite basic skill gaps in terms of people's ability and access to digital technology and skills. So I think we've got a really unusual situation now of growing youth unemployment, as we can see, and real unemployment challenges coming up over the coming months. At the same time, we still have a massive digital skills gap. And so on a fairly simple level, though of course it isn't simple because it's around really smart delivery, what we have to do is bridge the gap between those two by allowing those people who find themselves without access to work or without access to the digital kind of skills agenda, we've got to allow them through upskilling to give access to those jobs, and in doing that solve our economic problems. So we've got a really clear economic need and a really clear business need that can solve a social problem. And I think part of that is understanding the range of jobs that there are. Digital is far more than just about coding, which I know I've talked at length to the UA92 team about, and we recognise that There are lots of other skills that are needed within businesses that are going to be digitally led. And the right way to do it is to be really employer led, which again, I know UA92 is really passionate about. So bringing employers nearer to how those skills are shaped and designed and delivered, which again just gives everybody who's engaged in that as a student greater access to understanding the world of work and to where they might work and understanding the kind of jobs and the kind of cultures they might want to be part of. So I think inclusion is really important from our economic perspective, not just because it's the right thing, but also what we're starting to see is that more inclusive organisations are actually better performing organisations. And certainly in my world, where we design and make digital products, you know, you do actually need a number of different perspectives and voices around the table to make sure that you're not designing just through one lens. So I think, you know, we continue as a city region to be really passionate, even in the craziest of times that we face, about the digital opportunity. And whilst I've worked in the sector for 20 odd years and it feels like we've had this conversation, we're really only just in the beginnings of this. So I think programs like this are brilliant because it allows organisations and individuals from all sorts of different types of business and types of background to get involved and to be part of what will be Manchester's digital success story. So I guess from my perspective, I'd urge employers to reach out and be part of this. It's a programme we're really passionate about, and an organisation that's doing some incredible work in the city region. And I'll probably leave it there, Claire, but if there's some questions at the end, really happy to stay around and take part in that.
Thank you so much, Lou. Yeah, really well framed the challenges that we face and actually the opportunities that are in front of us as well. So thank you very much. I'll hand over to Professor Craig Gaskell, Principal and CEO at UA92, who can tell us about the programme itself.
Thanks, Claire, and yeah, thanks, Lou. That's really really helpful context for us all, just to remind us why we're doing this. So the digital upskill program that I'm going to explain, and there's a diagram here which hopefully will capture it. We have a flyer that we can send out that's got this diagram in actually after the event if anyone's interested in that. But this particular program, we started working quite a while ago with Microsoft to actually develop some computing provision as part of our holistic digital offer. But we decided to focus initially on the whole software development agenda. The reason being that we got some data and we had a discussion with Tim Nunes at Midas, and it was really clear that one of the fundamental skills gaps, one of the critical issues was coding. And we know we've got some great coding schools and things around us in Greater Manchester doing some wonderful work. But the statistic before we went into lockdown was 2,000 jobs in the area of coding. So our sense was coding is probably the area we should focus on initially. And so that's what the digital upskill program is all about. So I'll just briefly explain what's in here. So coding then a demand area, and the whole idea here is to take people who are looking to get themselves into the world of coding or into the general digital sector and want to focus on coding for a period. And the idea is that those people will come in, they'll start in January. So this all starts in January, so only a few months away. So they'll start in January and they'll undertake a 7-month program. Now, during that 7-month program, they will be learning how to code. They don't need to be coders when they start. They've just got to have the aptitudes and the value set and the tenacity and the work ethic to want to engage in this program and work properly. And we can talk a little bit later about this, but the whole idea is we'll work with the employer partners that are going to be part of this, hopefully some of you on the call today, to actually work out how we make sure we find the right people, not necessarily just the traditional people that might be applying for universities, but people that have got the right aptitude, the right value set, and the ability to complete this and come out at the other end having developed their coding skills. They don't need to have coded before, but we'll take them right through that program in 7 months. So this is how it works then. The program they'll study is a certificate in higher education, and it's awarded by Lancaster University. This is the equivalent to the first year of a degree. It's actually the first year of our computer science degree, but the entire focus is on coding. So there are subjects in there like front-end development, back-end development, software design, problem solving for computation, but it's really, really coding focused. So they'll spend 7 months in our general block structure studying how to become a software developer. Now, the way that our timetable will work in this, it means that their studies will be in the afternoon. So from 2 o'clock until 6 o'clock on campus at University Academy 92, or indeed a mix of on campus and online. Whatever happens with COVID, this is going ahead. We're still teaching at University Academy 92 with a hybrid of on campus and online synchronous engaging delivery. So whatever happens, we will just continue. If we go into complete full lockdown, which we're not at the moment, even though we're heading for tier 3, we all know about that, but we're still teaching students on campus, socially distanced. And if we can continue to do that, we will. If we end up going online, fully online for a period, we will. But this will go, this will happen. So 7 months of learning how to code starts in January 2021. And at the end of that, a certificate in higher education, a level 4 qualification, which is the equivalent to the first year of a degree, which of course students could carry on in their own time, part-time, maybe to get a full degree. But the purpose of this is 7 months. At the same time as students are studying, so they're free every morning, they'll actually undertake some character and personal development, and they'll also do an employer placement. So the employer placement will be offered by employers like yourselves, digital employers, people that are interested in potentially recruiting new digital skills, or actually supporting young people to develop their digital skills. And again, the placement will flex that so that it works in a COVID time. And we can talk about the details later. We can send you more information about the details, but we're talking about the equivalent of about 12 hours. And again, it can be project-based work online in this context. But the whole idea is, whilst they're studying at University Academy 92, they're also engaging with an employer. So 7 months of proper, good quality employer engagement. And then 7 months later, they're ready, their coding skills have developed, they've had some great employer engagement, their work readiness has developed. And like every program at University Academy 92, all of these students will undertake our character and personal development foundations. So learning about resilience, communication, teamwork, and all those things as well. So in addition to the academic study, there'll be a real focus on their character and personal development. Every single student, every single one of them will have a personal development coach that will be supporting them in that process. Okay, so in terms of this program, the students will also get £2,000. So a £2,000 award towards their living expenses. How's that going to work? Well, University Academy 92 are going to contribute £1,000, and what we're asking is for businesses to contribute as well. Now, it's possible to actually both contribute £1,000 for a placement, or a number of £1,000 for towards the grant that the students will receive alongside a placement, or one or the other. So what we're trying to do is build a pot so that we can actually make sure, because we're anticipating that many of these people will be unemployed, will be wanting to come into a learning environment, but the whole idea is to support them with their living expenses whilst they're working hard to achieve this qualification and to actually get the experience. So that's it in simple terms, really. So we're looking for employers that want to be part of this, and we've got some already, to offer placements, to contribute towards, for each student, £1,000 to contribute towards their living expenses. And then what we'll do after this webinar, once we've got our employers together, we'll actually start engaging with them to just finalize this process. And then we're going to be out recruiting students and promoting this. And so at the very least, we'd hope that employers and people that are engaging with us on this webinar will at least get the word out, because we think this could be both life-changing for the people involved. This could be a real lifeline that in 7 months' time, despite these dark times, could actually translate people's prospects into a completely different place in 7 months of learning and engaging with business. And we think these will be highly employable people at the end of it, either in the businesses where they've engaged or elsewhere. And so we'll start helping to bridge that skills gap and generate some more coders in Greater Manchester. And I think that's it from me. Hopefully that made some sense, but as I say, there's a flyer that can come out. The whole idea is that this is co-designed with industry. We've co-designed the program with Microsoft and a number of our partners. It will be co-delivered with industry. And the whole idea, in very much a Greater Manchester style, is to work in partnership together to both transform and change some lives and actually help drive the economy at the same time. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks, Craig. So it's now my pleasure to hand over to Derek McCourt from Microsoft UK.
So Microsoft has always had a close working relationship with UA92, and we're an embedded partner as part of the campus. We've got great ambitions for Greater Manchester, which hasn't changed since we formed the partnership with UA92, and digital skills has always been at the centre of that. So we're really committed to supporting the UA92 Digital Upskill Programme as a key strategic partner. We're going to bring it to life through scholarships and building valuable connections in form of things like mentorships between UA92 students and Microsoft employees. We'll foster connections in our extensive partner network in the local area that'll really scale this commitment to the broader Greater Manchester region. It's an exciting week for us in skills. We've just announced our own Get On campaign, which is a 5-year campaign to help 1.5 million people to build careers in technology and help 300,000 connect to tech job opportunities. And that's been supported by many of our customers like KPMG, Unilever, and the Department of Work and Pensions. So there's an incredible opportunity here for all of us, UA92 and all employers in Greater Manchester. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this come to life.
So I'll now hand over to Lee Jones, the Public Sector Digital Skills Lead for Microsoft UK.
Hello, afternoon everyone. Yeah, great to see Derek talking about all the great stuff that we're doing. I just wanted to pick up a few kind of pointers with regards to the relationship, and I know that the reason for this is to really encourage businesses to get involved in the program. And from our perspective, going back to one of the things that Lou said earlier on, it's making sure that we help to support the development of the talent pipeline. From an employer-led perspective, we need specific individuals coming out of different programs to really drive the digital transformation, both internally within our organisation, but obviously across all the organisations across Greater Manchester. We have lots of partners within the Greater Manchester region who also need the digital skills and the technology. So we're really, really excited about what this programme is actually going to look like, how we can help to formulate it moving forwards. And I just want to take a step back actually in relation to one of the things that Derek said. So off the back of COVID, Microsoft as an organisation realised that actually we really need to make a difference. We're in a very privileged position that we have lots of resources. Digital is one of the industries that's actually being hit the least, and therefore the contribution that we can make is how do we work with organisations, both public and private sector, to help individuals get the skills that they need to either move into new jobs or to retrain within different organisations to make sure that actually if they are returning from furlough, they have the skill set that they need to help them progress in the future. So at the back end of June, we launched a global skills initiative, and we used the data from LinkedIn to actually understand what are the most in-demand jobs. So we found that software developer was the #1 in-demand job. And we created 10 pathways aligned to the roles that we identified, and those sit across a lot of the activities. A lot of the roles that are available in Greater Manchester align to those jobs that are available globally and where the skill demand is. I've worked in Greater Manchester in the skills space for many years, and we've seen that actually the difficulty with retaining talent within an organisation, because there seems to be other opportunities for people to kind of move around. So it's our responsibility as a region to really help to grow the pipeline and to kind of deliver the talent back that you as businesses and we as businesses need. And that's obviously one of the reasons why this programme has been developed in the way that it has. So the pathways that we created and the information and courses that we actually created will be delivered as part of the initiative. So some of the content in there is very much technical specific. So it's around, coding, software development, data analytics, but some of it also is around the softer skills. As Craig mentioned before, it's not necessarily just what the individuals are studying, it's all around their personal development. How can we make sure that we are helping to support individuals grow their communication skills, their creativity, their teamwork skills? Because as technology kind of comes down the line, a lot of companies in Greater Manchester will actually see that they'll be able to innovate in a new way that they couldn't before, but actually what that will mean is that they'll really have to focus on the skills piece and look at how they redeploy their staff to make sure that they are delivering the best kind of output for the region. And again, one of the things that Lou said was around, it's about that kind of economic inclusivity perspective. And we have a huge focus with regards to this initiative with UA92 around how do we make sure that we're driving that diversity? How do we make sure that, individuals from lots of different backgrounds come into an organisation? Because we see that in order to be successful, we have to have differences of opinion. We have to have people that come from different type of backgrounds. And, I'm originally from Manchester, so, and I'm not from a great background. And I worked hard to kind of get where I am, but actually having that support of organisations like UA92 and other businesses can really inspire people, obviously, as they're going through school and get into a position where they're making their life choices. So again, it's really about how can you leverage the expertise that you have within your organisation to work across GM and with the combined authority as well, and the fantastic initiatives that they're doing to make sure that you are helping to support that recovery. So that was kind of the global thing that we announced back at the end of June. And then last Tuesday, Derek just kind of referred to our UK commitment. So on Tuesday, we launched our Get On 2021 campaign. And that's a commitment to help 1.5 million people build careers in technology over the next 5 years, and to connect 300,000 people to tech job opportunities. And this is one of the ways, obviously, through this programme that we'll be connecting people to opportunities. We have a huge partner network from a Microsoft perspective, and many of those are within GM, and they're all the time looking for people who have the skills. They're constantly trying to recruit people into roles, and they're really struggling with the different kind of skill sets. So the campaign is all about how do we collaborate with businesses, how do we work together with public and private sector organisations to really shift the dial when it comes to helping to support the trajectory of the skills, learning environment and the skills that will be required over the next 3 to 5 years. Initially, at the moment, it's all around, how can we help right now? How can we help people who are impacted by COVID, people in GM who are going to lose their jobs because of the situation, people who potentially will be in sectors that aren't necessarily digital at the moment, retail organisations, hospitality organisations across GM. And actually, those businesses as well as tech businesses will be digital businesses. Lou said this straight at the beginning. Every single organisation that you work with and every single organisation in the UK will have to have digital capability for them to be successful moving forward. So as well as bringing in people from initiatives, obviously like the one with UA92 and this programme, it's important as well that you're thinking about how can you leverage some of the resources that the university are actually providing through this programme to then help to support your additional kind of employees and really help to grow them and their mindset and things moving forward. So, you know, from my perspective, it's very much a case of we want to make a difference within Greater Manchester. I have a huge personal commitment that we actually leverage the Microsoft resources, and we can do what we can to help to support people to get the opportunities that they need. And you know, I'm from an organisation that's very heavily committed to working with UA92 as partnership. You know, we have offices kind of based within the building on the site, just encouraging you to think about actually, you know, how is your business model potentially going to change moving forwards? Have you thought about what transformation it is that you need to think about as an organisation? Is that in line with your strategic direction as well? And therefore, what are the talent gaps that potentially you will have if you look at the next 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, kind of moving forward, and identify those gaps now so that you can be really in a position to actually accelerate your transformation and make sure that as we come through the other side of COVID, that you have the talent and the skill sets that you need to be successful. So again, you know, really, really encourage everybody to get involved. As Derek mentioned, there's lots of things that we're doing from a Microsoft perspective, but you know, if there's anything that we can do working with the businesses across Greater Manchester, again, around the skills piece to help to support, then yeah, we're super happy to. So Claire, I'm going to hand back to you. Again, more than happy to answer questions.
Thank you so much, Lee. It was great to hear from you. So the final person we'll hear from now before we go into a Q&A is Dr. Marnie Millard, OBE, Chair of the Board at UA92.
Thank you to Lou and our colleagues from Microsoft. I'm Marnie Millard and I'm Chair of the Board for UA92. So you've all now heard about our digital upskill programme. My ask of you now is very simply the following. Firstly, we need good quality placements that will give our students a true insight into the world of work. And secondly, we would like your support with a £1,000 scholarship per student. In turn, this will help people who may have lost their current job in digital due to these current challenging times. It will help to support and guide recruits into the world of work and becoming part of the team from day one, their opportunity to really make a difference. And finally, last but not least, give you that all-important future pipeline of talent. This is your chance to make a real difference to someone's life and have a positive impact on the skills shortage we see in digital in our region.
So it was great to hear from Marnie, and a massive thank you to all of our panel members that have joined us today. It's now my pleasure to introduce Dr. Ali Jones, the academic lead at UA92, who's going to help facilitate a Q&A session. And I've seen lots coming through the chat. So can I ask that anybody that does have any questions, please pop them in the chat, and I'll hand over to Ali.
Thanks, Claire, and thanks for me to all the speakers we've had. We've had a few questions already in the chat, so please feel free to drop more questions in as we go along. I'll pick up the ones in the chat and then I'll maybe pick some others up that we've picked up elsewhere. So the first one was from Adele, and Adele's question was around, which I think I'll put to Craig, which was one around, would we be happy for employer placements from the public and charity sectors as well as the private sector?
Yes, nice, easy answer that one. Of course, we would. Employment in the digital space anywhere, be that public, private sector, charity, as long as we could make sure that it's a good quality placement, so the students would learn something. They don't necessarily have to be coding, but it's got to be a good quality placement where they're getting good engagement with and commitment from the employer. But no, public sector, charity sector is fine as well as the private sector.
Brilliant, thank you, Craig. And before I pick up a couple more in the chat, we obviously, a lot of our speakers today have talked about sort of the values and attributes and how they're really, really key in making sure we've got the digital workforce of the future that we really, really need. So I'm going to pose my next question to both Lee and Lou. I'll start with Lou. So, you know, as a key employer in this sector and potentially somebody that would benefit from our future graduates in computer science or software development, what are those key sort of aptitudes and values that you're looking for in a potential employee?
Brilliant. Thanks for that. I think, funny enough, we were having this conversation last week ourselves as we looked back on the kind of people who've made the biggest difference to our business. And we realised actually it was very little to do with experience. And often the people who'd made the biggest difference had come straight to us, straight out of college, straight out of university, and they'd had a lot to learn, and they'd been on quite a learning journey with us in terms of their actual skill base. But actually it was the kind of ambition, enthusiasm, hunger to learn, desire to play as a team, you know, all of those things that I think wrongly get labelled as soft skills that are actually probably the most important skills. And our view is often, you know, we go through a kind of 3-tier process, and the first tier of that is all about brand values and values fit with our organisation, our culture. And we don't really get to skills unless that fit is there. And people come from all walks of life and all different kinds of backgrounds and experiences, but what we know works well for us is to have a really clear set of cultural values, which for us are about working as a collective, about being really ambitious, wanting to put Manchester on the map as making the best products and services in the world, so all those kind of things. And I think if people have got a few skill gaps, you can kind of cover that, because if they're hungry to learn and they enjoy learning and they're enthusiastic for their topic, you can pick that up. So I think that's really important, therefore, that they get the opportunity, you know, as Craig's describing, to be in a working environment, because actually you could be right for the industry but wrong for that place. But that doesn't mean you're wrong for digital, it just means you've not found the right place yet. So I think it's really important to give people the opportunity, you know, hence Andy as mayor talks a lot about the opportunity to shadow and work placement. And, you know, the world that we all forget, because we've been working a long time, the world of work is completely alien to a lot of people, because if you've not been on that journey yet, you have no idea what it is to step inside different cultures and different places. So I think it's about the cultural fit and about just the mindset of wanting to excel.
Brilliant, thanks. That was about, you summed up how I was going to sum up, which is, you know, it does just sort of pay testament to the importance of that work placement that we're trying to do with this project. Of actually, it's not just about the fact that they go from 0 to coder, but actually they get that experience of kind of fitting in or learning whether or not they fit in with a particular sort of workplace culture. Lee, can I pose the same question to you, please?
Yeah, of course you can. I mean, a lot of what I kind of feel has been already kind of suggested by Lou. I think that fundamentally it's around somebody having that determination and grit within an organization, because irrespective of where they're starting from, if they are agile and flexible and they can kind of take on new challenges, irrespective of the skill set, that actually, you know, that personal kind of determination is what's going to get them through. And I think that employers see that. They bring people, you know, and within Microsoft there's lots of different individuals who come from lots of different backgrounds, and it doesn't necessarily mean to say that you have to have a digital background to work in the industry, but you can completely come from a different background and your skill set will be massively valid within the different kind of industries and different businesses. So again, making sure that, you know, I think as well, making sure that you don't kind of put yourself in a box. That's one of the things that I would say to the students, is that don't kind of put barriers on yourself and set expectations like I can't actually do this or that. Realistically, you know, we're working in a digital age. We're all kind of behind our screens. You can deliver value across the whole of the world. And if from GM you can work with a company that's then going to, you know, make a difference and kind of change people's lives, then I think that's what it comes back to. It comes back to the values and how people can really kind of align what they're trying to do from a company perspective. And again, the one other thing as well is lifelong learning, because you can learn something now, and irrespective whether these people come on your course and they graduate and they go into an employer 6 months down the line and 12 months down the line and 20 years down the line, I and everybody else will still be learning, because everything's changing super, super fast. So just having that mindset of constantly learning and instilling within the organisation a culture of learning, I think that's one of the things as well that I'd say to people on this, is make sure that you're supporting individuals to constantly have that time to develop themselves and to grow within the organisation.
That sounds brilliant. Thank you both. There's a couple more questions in the chat, which I think I'm going to ping towards Craig. So the first one was from Chris Lines about will the work placement need to be a paid placement?
Oh, hi, Chris. Chris is from Insight, one of our partners. So good to have you on the call, Chris. And I did type into this. No, these aren't paid placements. We looked at all sorts of things that would facilitate that, but we thought we would take that whole hassle of having to form an employment relationship away. So no, they're not paid placements. These people would officially be students. So all that we're asking for is that for each placement, ideally, the organisation will contribute £1,000 towards that grant. But it's not an employer-employee relationship. Of course, after the programme, organisations could potentially employ the people that have taken part, but no, they're not paid placements.
Brilliant, thanks, Craig. And then a question from Damien Payton around: is there an expected age group for the programme? And a supplementary question to that was, and how many people are we looking to take on?
Okay, yeah, I've answered this one as well in the chat.
You have. I'm conscious some people aren't reading the chat.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Yes, there is an expected age group. It's 18 plus. So anybody aged 18 or above is quite open to this, and absolutely career changers. So there are people all over Greater Manchester now that are reconsidering their lives, reconsidering their careers. This is not just for 18-year-olds that have come out of college. They're welcome, but actually, and in fact, we've started to get some initial contact from people that are, should we say, just slightly more mature, have been looking for a career change, looking for a new place to go. Maybe COVID's accelerated their thinking. So we'd love to have some people that are in that bracket as part of this. This is really part of our motivation for doing it.
Brilliant. And how many are we going to take on? Sorry, Craig, did you cover that?
Okay, me again. So we're planning for 50 initially. So we'll start taking them on in January. Don't necessarily have to start them all 50 in January, but we're planning to be able to accommodate 50 individuals. Now, that could be 50 different employers offering 50 placements each, of course. Employers could offer multiple placements, but just offering one placement would really help us as part of this programme. But in terms of the number of people we want to impact in the first round, we're going for 50. And of course, you know, if we end up with more demand, then we'll look at that and we'll do whatever we can to extend it.
Brilliant, thank you. And then a question that's come through as well. Obviously, Lou and Lee did a really good job of explaining the values and aptitudes that they're looking for in a potential employee, somebody that maybe, you know, successfully gone through this programme. So how is UA92 going to ensure that those students get those or develop those aptitudes, and perhaps, you know, certainly become aware of their own value set?
Oh, really, really interesting. Are you asking me again?
I am. Well, I could answer my own question, but that would be a bit unfair. Yeah,
well, I'll give you my take, and then use our academic lead can give me yours. But I think you know, we talked about making sure that we've got UA92's character and personal development program embedded in this anyway. So the basics of resilience, communication, teamwork, in all those kinds of things. I know they're not values, but they're part of that wider skill set. But we have a value set that's aligned to UA92, the kind of things that we value, and value people being bold. You know, for some people, this would be a brave decision to take this on. Being bold is part of that. So I think that's one of our critical values. But it's really, I think, probably the number one, and Gary Neville would say this, one of our co-founders, what is the number one thing? And it's that getting up every morning and never giving up, giving of your best. So for us, work ethic is probably right up there as one of the critical things we'd be looking for. And we look for that in our staff, in all of our students, but particularly in this program. We need somebody that's committed to engaging in the whole thing, and that's what we'll be testing for. But we'll be steered by the employers that are going to be part of this as well. So I think you know, if there are critical things that the employers would want to be part of this, then we'll build that into the selection process.
Excellent, thanks Craig. And so just to shout out again, if any of you have got any additional questions, please drop them in the chat. A couple of things that have come through to me, and I'll sort of pose the question and answer it in one go, is potentially around if you're a small organisation and perhaps not able to contribute to the grants, but are still interested in taking on placement students, is this possible? I think our question is absolutely yes. You know, ideally we would like that grant, but actually if you're in a position where you can't provide the grant, but you could provide a placement, I think we'd certainly be interested in that. And similarly, if you're in a nice position to be able to support the grants, but not necessarily be able to provide the placements, again, that is something that we can explore, and would certainly be keen to explore. And another thing that came up previously with me is around, I think taking on a placement student can be quite daunting as an employer or as a workplace, particularly if you haven't done that before. It can feel quite scary and quite intimidating, and really just to, I suppose, provide some reassurance that we're doing quite a lot of work, or an awful lot of work internally, to make sure that our placement providers are supported to support the learners and to support the students as well. So, you know, in taking on a placement student, you won't be on your own. We'll be here every step of the way to hold your hand. I'm just trying to think, any other questions from the audience? I don't think so.
I just picked one of the things up. So one of the questions earlier on was regarding the public sector, kind of voluntary sector space. And I know we've spoken a lot about the actual kind of private sector and the opportunities within the private sector. But I lead on our digital skills for Microsoft, and I predominantly work with public sector organisations, and that's central government organisations, including the Department for Work and Pensions, HMRC, right the way through to, you know, Greater Manchester Combined Authority, and within that Wigan Council and all the rest. So one of the things I'm seeing actually is a huge demand across public sector, because COVID's accelerated the way in which public sectors have to digitise themselves and innovate with regards to delivering services to citizens. And therefore, there will be a huge demand for the skill sets within public sector organisations as well as private sector. So again, I suppose it's more of a kind of a message to anybody who potentially is looking at taking this on, and we can pick this up again if there's another kind of call to the actual to the people and the students, is, you know, digital technology gives people the opportunity to really make a difference. So if you want to be, you know, if you want to work with Lou and you want to create some great stuff, then that's really good opportunity. But if you also want to have an impact within your local council and help Wigan to deliver their services, or Salford or Trafford or Manchester, then those opportunities will be there for you as well. So not to kind of, you know, not to cut out opportunities, because the great thing about technology is that it enables you to, you know, really have a massive impact. So I suppose that's my kind of takeaway, is that ultimately it's about helping people to create the lives that they want and go on the journeys that they want. So
brilliant, thanks Lee. We've also got a question from Jackie Stanford, who says, great insight, but she'd like a little bit more information on the type of student. Is the course seen to be suitable for, I suppose, artsy students, shy students, maybe those that are perhaps not, I think the word she used was not the sort of up and away type? You know, is it just for bright students? Craig, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, again, happy to answer it. It's really interesting, because I was discussing with Simon, who heads up GCHQ, and we work, and I've worked with Simon in the past, and really they've often looked to recruit into coding roles students from arts backgrounds, from languages backgrounds, because a lot of the fundamental traits aren't necessarily the classic people that have gone through a kind of science or maths-based education. I should declare, actually, I was a coder as well. I'm a closet computer scientist by background. So, you know, and I was probably sort of classically a little bit geeky and really into the maths and not that outgoing. But a lot of the great coders and computer scientists that I've worked with have come from all sorts of different backgrounds. Tends to have been a male dominated profession as well, and we have to break that. And I know a number of our partners are very, very keen to break that. And actually, certainly some of the best coders I've worked with have come from a whole range of diverse backgrounds. So no, I think sometimes it can attract the introverted sometimes, and that's fine too. You know, it's fine to be introverted, and that's fine. It can attract people with all sorts of different skills and abilities and potential needs. So there are many people with a whole range of disabilities that are able to excel in this sector as well. So I think it can really be enabling. Just a final sort of minor aside, when Manchester University, in the way back in the day when they were really at the heart of developing computer science as a subject, you know, with the classic bearded academics, I guess, in those days, but they also had the coolest departmental jazz band as well at the same time, because they were all musicians. So just a useless fact.
Brilliant, thanks, Craig. Lou, can I just come back to you around the public sector conversation that we were having as well?
Yeah, I was just going to, I guess, make a comment connected to that about what I think is the role of the private sector in this, and I think we find ourselves, certainly a lot of my kind of friends and colleagues who run businesses, there's a real sense, I think, in Greater Manchester at the moment that these are unprecedented times, as we know. But I think there is a real moment, and I think if anybody can lead this on the kind of world stage, this is Greater Manchester's moment, as we kind of saw Andy begin to do yesterday. He wasn't just speaking for Manchester, was he? I think, you know, we're in a moment, I think, where actually there is a different role for business emerging, and I think Manchester's recognised this for a long time. But we need to kind of be conscious of this more than ever. And I think certainly the conversation we're having now is, if we're serious about kind of using the moment to redesign, to build that better, although Boris has stolen that from us now, so we're not using that anymore. But, you know, to take the moment to actually go forward to something better, not back to how it was, which I think actually a lot of us don't want to go back to how things were, because it wasn't particularly good for quite a big section of our society. It certainly wasn't very good for the planet. There's a massive role for business in this moment, which is about recognizing that you as one business, big or small, can make a massive difference to 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or more individuals' fortunes. And I think if there's even an ounce of opportunity for you to give somebody a break, or give them an exposure, or give them something on their CV that means that they can step into this industry that we know is not going to go away, it's going to flourish and is a great career opportunity, I would just kind of urge people, even though everybody's scrabbling to kind of run their businesses and do all the stuff we're all doing, it is a real moment where, you know, we've got more duty, I think, now than just delivering shareholder value. We've got a real opportunity to shape society, and, you know, public sector has got massive challenges. It's going to have even more challenges coming up. Therefore, it's even more important, I think, that the private sector recognises its responsibility in that. And I think it's one of the things Greater Manchester does really, really well. And I never cease to be amazed by how business does step up in these moments and give people a shot. So I think that would be my plea to Greater Manchester businesses, to get behind these kind of initiatives, because a huge amount of work goes into just being able to get to the point today where we can potentially offer 50 people a place. And for those 50 people, it's the long-term impact on their families, who suddenly realize there is a thing called digital, and their kids grow up with it all normalized. And, you know, so the long-term impact of these things, without being too whimsical, is massive. And I think Manchester can lead the way on that.
Brilliant, thanks, Lou. And in some ways that leads me back into kind of, I suppose, Jackie's sort of third part of Jackie's question, which was about, you know, where will these students, potential students, these people that have been through this wonderful program, end up? So I think I'll go to Lou first, then Lee, and then maybe back to Craig. So where could they end up? What could they be doing?
Oh Lord, well, gosh, I mean, so you could literally be in any sector. I mean, we have people who come through our business that work in the BBC 1 minute, us the next, you know, as Lee was saying, in the public sector the next minute, you know, they'll be working then for a health company. So I think, you know, particularly in coding, you know, you literally can transition across any sector. I think increasingly it could be any bit of Greater Manchester as well. So it isn't just about a city centre role. You know, actually we're seeing, you know, from AO to the Hut Group, you know, to city centre to GCHQ, you know, we've got a real pan-GM kind of ambition around digital. And the reality is, you know, there's a ton of startups and scale-ups and people arriving in the city, the tech bits of their businesses arriving still in the city region, that don't even exist as we stand here today. So in a year's time, we'll have even more businesses. So I think, you know, it's you know, you could be working in anything from a marketing department to a startup to you know, building iPlayer, you know, so I think the breadth of opportunity is enormous, isn't it, for any of those individuals, and you know, that will be in part determined on day one by who steps up and offers placements, you know, to these people, I guess.
Brilliant, thanks Lou. Lee, to you.
Yeah, I was going to say, hopefully in your businesses, people that are watching, again, you know, very much any single organisation will have a digital role, and therefore the opportunity for people who have the skill set will be across any sector, anywhere, across GM. So yeah, I think you know, from my perspective, it's very much a case of whatever somebody actually kind of wants to do as part of their lives, then digital gives them that chance. I mean, it's funny actually, because I was on LinkedIn and I was reading something about like the new kind of technology for the space programs that Microsoft are involved in, but it just kind of made me feel like all those kids who wanted to be astronauts when they were younger, you know, when they were like thinking, I really want to get involved in space, and it was just so far removed that was never an opportunity. Whereas now, with all the technology and everything that goes around that industry, all the technology that goes around green energy and climate change, you really have that opportunity to put your passion and align that to a role that you want to kind of really have an impact in. So I think it's, you know, hopefully there's businesses on here who really see the opportunity and see the potential of how they can utilize these people and bring in new ideas and new talent to drive that innovation in their own organizations. And again, if you are a business and you ultimately don't have those roles, but you can bring somebody in and give them that work experience and then put them on the path to do something else that can then go off and have a huge impact, then, you know, I think this is an ideal opportunity now to really kind of take stock and say, what can we do that's going to make a difference now? And it's going to have an impact across Manchester and really kind of help people that, you know, the people that are suffering in our areas. Like let's give those people the chance to go on and build stuff in space or whatever.
Thanks, Lee. Anything from you, Craig, quickly? You obviously referenced the 2,000 vacancies that we had at the start of lockdown across GM.
Yeah, there's that. I think Lou and Lee have really covered it, but I just spotted some. There was a role for somebody that could do JavaScript for a web company in York. You can live anywhere, so you could live local and you can work global in this industry. And I would say, you know, some of these people might not end up being coders, but that fundamental discipline of going through learning about coding, understanding code, working with organizations, they may well find they've got other skills and abilities as well. And the only other one thing I would add to the wonderful things that Lou and Lee have alluded to is, of course, you could start your own business. So this is where making new businesses that haven't even been thought about could be spawned from. And I think it's just the ability to be part of this and to contribute to this, I think is just a great thing to be part of.
Brilliant, thanks, Craig. So I just want to, as I hand off to Claire, say thank you to the panel members for letting me fire questions at you at quite a pace over the last few minutes, and also thank you to those of you in the audience that have posted questions either in the chat or beforehand. And I'm going to hand back to Claire. So the floor is yours, Claire.
Thank you, Ali. And also from me, massive thank you to our panel for joining us today. And an even bigger thank you to all of our guests that have joined us today. It's you that really we want to hear from now. We'll be sharing information with you later today by email, so you can find out even more information about the programme. But if you want to get in touch, just email us, hello@ua92.ac.uk, and we really hope to hear from you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.